I am so glad to see you all, and I am so glad that that we're back together. It feels like it's been a long time since we've been together like this. So tomorrow is Rosh Chodesh Heshvan. And Heshvan is the only holiday in the Jewish calendar. I mean, it's the only month in the Jewish calendar that has no holidays. So I think that this is notable. And I think it's really important to pay attention to this pause. So the calendar is just really kind of remarkable. We had this intensity in Elul kind of building up to and preparing for Tishrei, where we have the high holidays, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and then the festival of Sukkot. And Tishrei is pretty intense, where we are really doing some significant introspection and soul accounting, if you will, and looking at how we behaved over this past year and seeing where we want to change and make teshuvah. So boy, we need a rest now. We need to take that pause and take the time to really integrate what we've just experienced over the past 2 months. So I think that that's really worth paying attention to. So I want to spend a little time talking about the value of rest and renewal and taking some space. And I have examples that I'm going to share from a wide variety of places. So one example is the space between notes in a piece of music. And another example might be the space between words on the written page. And without these spaces, everything would really run together and we wouldn't be able to differentiate. We wouldn't hear the notes. We wouldn't see the words. So that's part of the value of space, of taking some space, taking a pause. For those of us who practice yoga, we know that after a yoga practice where we're moving our bodies and stretching, we take a pause. The last pose in any yoga asana practice is shavasana, which is translated as corpse pose, but it's a rest. It's lying flat on your back with your arms out and palms up in a really receptive position and letting the body really relax and integrate the movement that we've just experienced. And then, of course, from our tradition, we have Shabbat as the rest and renewal and pause. So we rest from the past week's busyness and we pause and renew ourselves, preparing for the next week's busyness. And then there's Shemitah, where every 7th year, we're letting the earth rest so that it can renew and then be productive for the next 6 years. So it's the earth's Shabbat every 7th year. So the whole notion of Shabbat kind of got elevated for me as I was thinking about Heshvan and this pause. And Abraham Joshua Heschel wrote a very sweet little book called The Sabbath. And in it, he discusses Shabbat Menucha. And he talks about how that's usually translated as Shabbat rest. But he describes Menucha as something much more active than simply ceasing from work. And in it, he says, What was created on the seventh day? Tranquility, serenity, peace, and repose. And he goes on to say that in the biblical mind, menucha is the same as happiness and stillness, as peace and harmony. I really like that. But that reminded me of something from the Chinese, Wu Wei. Wu Wei in Chinese means doing nothing, but it's not the doing nothing of just kind of sitting back and doing nothing. It's really more like effortless action. It means using your skills and actions, but in a way that is so smooth and consistent with who you are and what the situation is. So when we talk about being in the flow or being in the zone, that's Wu Wei. That's when we're doing something, but with internal ease, if you will. And this is all from the Taoist philosophy, and that's philosophy is very aligned to nature. So part of Wu Wei is that our behavior should be as spontaneous and inevitable as any kind of natural process. So some of you know that I was recently at Acadia National Park hiking, and we came upon, and there are huge boulders throughout the park, and we came upon trees that the trunk was coming up straight and then turned so that it was parallel to the ground, and then turned again and continued going back up. That's an example of Wu Wei. Apparently, when this tree was a baby tree and growing, there was a boulder in the way. So it worked its way around and continued doing what it does naturally. Another terrific example of Wu Wei would be in nature is to think of the Grand Canyon. So the Grand Canyon is this amazing natural wonder. It's carved by water. So water can be so gentle that it can run through your fingertips, and so strong that it can carve a Grand Canyon. Of course, that took millennia, right? So one of the pieces of Wu Wei, and I think of Heshvan, if you will, is this gentle persistence and recognition and acquiescence, if you will, to the specific shape of a problem or an obstacle, so that it can be worked with and around and gradually solved. So that's how I see Wu Wei. And that's kind of how I'm seeing Heshvan. So what I think would make sense now is for us to take our meditation position, feet flat on the floor if you're sitting in a chair, and your bottom really resting in a balanced way wherever it is that you're sitting, in a chair, on a cushion, on the floor, whatever. And allowing that heaviness so that you're really feeling grounded right into the earth. Maybe even imagining your feet growing roots that go all the way down to the center of the earth. And at the same time that you have this settling from the lower part of your body, elongating your spine and lifting your head and neck all the way up to the heavens. So the shoulders are down, The bottom is down. The spine is up. And the crown of the head is up. So from the earth, you're bringing up grounding energy. And maybe from the heavens, you're bringing down inspiration. And we breathe. And the breathing can be nice and smooth and natural. Maybe the breathing isn't so smooth. It's worth noting. Just being aware. And I invite you to really, very consciously right now, pick a focal point for this meditation, something that you will return to every time your mind wanders. And we all know the mind is going to wander. So your focal point can be in your body, physical sensations as you're breathing. Your focal point could be sounds. Your focal point could be a mantra that you simply repeat to yourself in a rhythmic fashion. And that mantra could be anything. It should generally be something short and something that has some meaning to you. Now, today, the mantra could be Wu Wei or Heshvan or Menucha or Shabbat. When we sit in meditation, we're giving ourselves the gift of a mini Shabbat. A time to pause and reflect. Integrate our experiences and be. So we'll now sit in silence for the next more or less 8 minutes. So as you are slowly coming back to the room, gently opening your eyes, hopefully with a smile on your face, going to read a Mary Oliver poem. This is titled Today. Today I'm flying low and I'm not saying a word. I'm letting all the voodoos of ambition sleep. The world goes on as it must. The bees in the garden rumbling a little, the fish leaping, the gnats getting eaten, and so forth. But I'm taking the day off, quiet as a feather. I hardly move, though really I'm traveling a terrific distance. Stillness, one of the doors into the temple. So I invite you to share any thoughts, comments, questions,